Hey, it's Carico with Carico Real Estate, and I am so lucky to be here with Brittni Cooke from Movement Mortgage. And we are going to chat all about movement mortgage, shopping loans, and also a lot about VA loans. But we'll just jump right into it. And how's everything going, Brittni?
Things are really good. So you would think things are, trying to slow down at the end of the year for Christmas, but we have been slammed. So, very, very grateful for that. And,
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm just busy myself. I mean, it is like
Good.
just a couple days from Christmas, and I've been really busy, which I'm
Yeah.
super grateful for. Do you have
Same.
anything fun and planned for this weekend?
No, nothing really, just trying to relax a little bit. So that'll be nice.
Yeah,
What about you?
yeah. Me, we've got, what do I have planned? Oh, I'm gonna meet my sister and friends. So we always do that right before
Nice.
Christmas. Yeah, so we'll do that. And other than that, maybe try not to work as much. So that's kind of the goal. So, anyways,
We'll see
but
how that turns out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I sell real estate, you do loans. That doesn't
Yeah.
really work out like
Yeah.
that.
Time
Yeah.
off? Eh.
What's time off?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, let's go a little bit into this. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the mortgage world.
Yeah. So I was in college. I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Took me a hot minute to get through school. Probably not nearly smart enough to be a doctor, but I was in school long enough to be a doctor.
Oh, yeah. I understand.
But I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I tried all different things, and um, I found a job as a mortgage processing assistant.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't know anything about mortgages. And
Yeah.
so I was like, and I was going to make a whole $3 more than what I was making at my job at the time. So I
Yeah.
was so excited.
Yeah.
Um, and then so I stayed there for a year,
Okay.
and I moved up to a loan officer assistant. And then I was like, I would like to make more money. And they're like, well, you can be a loan officer. I said, that sounds terrifying. Straight commission, no, base salary or anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And then I jumped in, and
Yeah.
so 7 years later, here I am.
That's fabulous. So, like, when did you go to movement or how'd you get
December of 2018.
there? Hmm.
So movement, I remember I was such a hater
Mm.
because they had the best marketing, they were everywhere,
Yeah.
super present in the community. And when
Yeah.
you can't beat them, you join them. And it's been the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
So I really, really enjoy it. The culture here is wonderful.
Hmm.
The people that I work with are really great.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
So, like with movement, I know that they're really big on marketing and the culture's a little different, but like what is their mission or how does this company, how is it different?
Yeah. So we exist to love and value people.
Hmm.
It is always people first. That's some of the best advice I ever got in the mortgage business,
Yeah.
was people first, and then the money will come.
Yeah.
Um, you always take care of your people. And
Yeah.
that doesn't matter if it's your clients, your partners, your operations team, whoever.
Yeah.
So yeah. So the other thing makes us unique is we're 49% owned by a nonprofit. That's the Movement Foundation.
Oh,
So 49 cents on the dollar goes to our local communities. So we have four movement schools currently. So they are charter schools that are funded from the mortgages that we do. And we're getting a school in Greensboro. Hopefully they break ground in 2025.
that's amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so we put those schools in underserved areas.
Hmm.
And so those students perform hundreds of percent better than their
Yeah.
peers. And so that is a really, really awesome thing that, you know, we can really make a huge impact on our community. And that's what we are. So we're impact lenders. Like you will never see our name on, a football stadium or anything like that because that doesn't do anything for our
Yeah.
communities. Like, we want to invest our money back into the community, and it's always been more than mortgages.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, that's pretty amazing. And
yeah.
so and with mortgages and movement, I mean, just in general, what should like somebody that's looking to buy a home, what should they look for in a lender? Like, because movement's so unique, and I know you've been in the industry a while. What should somebody look for?
Someone who communicates pretty quickly. We're
Mm,
all human, right? So we
yeah,
can't be, instantaneous. It isn't like you're, talking with a robot or whatever. But
yeah,
I do try to be, very responsive because in the world of real estate, things move really fast.
yeah,
And I mean, we've definitely seen that together. And
yes,
um, so yeah, definitely responsive. Somebody who's gonna provide you the most information and really try to like drill down and like, understand what your needs are and
yeah,
not just handing you a pre-approval letter and it's like, here you go shopping,
yeah,
And I can't say that every loan officer with movement is that way. But I mean, that's me. I try to hold the client's hand from, the very beginning by making sure that they understand what, all the different fees are that are going to be involved for their closing costs and how that works. And,
mhm,
just so that, and then, somebody who's not going to just pass you off to the next teammate.
yeah,
And then you just disappear. So I do have a loan manager that, does help me, but I don't disappear.
yeah,
I'm still going to be there for questions. I try to anticipate those needs as much as I can,
mhm,
because a lot of times, especially your first time home buyers, they don't even know what to ask.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly. And that's why, I love doing these interviews because it's like, it's great to have you on and help new buyers or potential new buyers to know exactly what are the good questions to ask, like
yeah.
what should you look for, because I know with you guys you have like a different and unique underwriting
Hmm.
process, so we want to talk about that in definitely in a second, but I
Sure.
mean, what are all the things that they should look for? Should they shop for a loan? So that's
For
kind of what
sure.
we're gonna jump into. Should they be shopping for a loan? I mean, what's your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Absolutely. So most of the time, buyers, they are quick to go to their bank.
Uh-huh.
And while that is great, a lot of your depository lenders, your
Yeah.
deal, your people, it's just a very different process. It's
Yes.
they're very much 8 to 5. Most of them, I will say, there are some bank. I mean, you could get very lucky and you have one
Yeah.
that does all the extra work, but pretty standard. It's a they're 8 to 5. They're a little bit slower, and where I only do mortgages, so that is my specialty.
Mhm.
That is all that movement mortgage does. So
Mhm.
that really is what helps is because I'm not having to worry about learning all these other products
Yeah.
that don't apply to my clients. I'm specifically focused on meeting their needs and making sure that they have all the options and that they can make the best choice for them.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. And how many people do actually shop for loans? And when we're meaning shop for loans, do
Yeah,
you want to explain
absolutely.
that? Because I think somebody
Yes.
that doesn't know this process probably like, what
Yeah,
do you mean
I
shopping for a
actually
loan?
have a statistic on that, and I don't want to misquote it.
Yeah.
So give me 1 second. I think it was like 30.
Um, yeah,
I think
I
it
know
was.
we were talking about that. So
I
just that
know, and it
shock.
slipped me. I think it was like 30, like 64% or something like that of I mean, I could definitely provide that information, but
Yeah.
it's that don't shop. So they go to their bank and then they're done. So you have to make sure that you're comparing like apples to apples, make sure that you're not paying extra in fees. And rates are not just rates.
Mhm.
So many people are like, okay, well, I see a 6.5% interest rate.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe my rate's 6.75, just depending on the market or whatever.
Yeah.
But how much are you going to be paying for that 6.5% interest
Mhm.
rate? And people don't buy houses every day.
Yeah.
That's why we have to advocate for it. So, I mean, there are so many times where I'm like, hey, I would bet you lunch that your loan officer did not explain to you, like, or in most cases, they don't even provide like a estimate that like breaks down everything for them, which
Mhm.
is wild to me.
Yeah.
And furthermore, they don't provide that information to their agent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
they're going to ask me questions or they're going to ask their lender questions and then they're going to come to you and be like, okay, so do you mind explaining this to me again?
Yes.
So it's so important for everybody to be on the same page,
Yes.
so you have to
Yeah.
compare the different fees, rates, and make sure that you actually understand. 9 times out of 10, whenever I explain those things, they're like, you are so much more thorough than our bank. And I'm so glad that I did, reach out to you to shop around. So
Yes.
yes, I highly recommend, people getting at least one second opinion, because you never know what's out there.
Yeah, yeah, and all the fees are different, and that's what I've
They
seen
are.
with all the different lenders and also the big banks is like the origination fee, and most of the time they
Mhm.
don't understand that. And I know with movement, don't you guys have like a unique origination fee? And
So we do offer a discount for our veterans. So
mhm.
it's about a
Okay.
$500 discount.
Oh, okay.
So we only charge one lender fee.
Okay.
And then, everything else is going to be, itemized to whatever the loan cost is because, we can't charge, over and above what the actual loan cost is.
Yeah.
But, you'll see things like discount points or, things like that where
Mhm.
your average client doesn't understand what that is, so they
Yeah.
compare closing costs from one bank and then another, and they're like, okay, well, my rate's 6.5 here, but my closing costs are 15 grand
Yeah.
versus, 6.75, and my closing costs are $7,000.
Yeah.
So it's just really important to make sure that you compare that and that you have somebody that's gonna, go above and beyond and make sure that you explain that, someone that can meet your schedule. There are
Yeah.
so many times where I have clients that work third shift that, we have to talk really early in the morning or we have to talk late at night and you just have to
Yeah.
make it work. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's super important because I know that when a lot of my buyers will come to me, they'll ask me, and I'm like, okay, I can do general numbers,
right.
but I'm not sure what they're offering you. And so I think it's really important for to have that open communication and be able to explain everything because I need to know what I'm going into. Because if I'm making
Yeah,
an offer, I'm like, okay, this is not going to cut it. So we're gonna
for
have to go
sure.
lower, or we're gonna have to. So that's the fabulous thing about I think working with a great lender for me, and that's why you're one of my favorites that I always give everybody because I mean, I want to make sure that I know that if I'm putting in an offer that we're good, that
Yeah, for
that they can
sure.
afford this house, that we're going to get to the closing table, and that everyone's going to have enough money to get there.
Yes.
So, and be comfortable
Yes.
there.
And
Yeah.
while trying to keep as much money in their pocket as possible,
Yes.
because I can't tell you how many times I have heard other lenders say, well, they have the money. It's not your job to spend it.
Yeah. No.
That's their money. Like,
Yeah.
what if they don't want to buy down? Like, what if they don't want to pay $3,000 to buy
Yes.
down the rate? You have to think about how long it takes someone to like your average person to save $3,000
A long
or even
time.
$500. I mean,
Yeah.
this day and time, things are so expensive. So
Yeah.
I always try, and that's what I tell people. It's my job to get you the lowest rate at the lowest cost. If
Yes.
you want to buy down the rate, we need to talk about this, see where your break even point's going to be to see if it's worth it. How long are you planning on staying in this house? If you're only
Yeah.
planning on staying in this house for 5 years and your break even point's at 4.5 years, is it really worth spending the extra money?
Yeah.
Probably not, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, or just even understanding and explaining to them that what points are, because most of the time they don't
right.
even know what that is.
No,
And especially like first time home buyers, they're like, I don't know. I still
exactly.
remember buying the first house I bought years and years ago. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew,
Yeah.
okay, this is
And
my
so many
payment.
people are, yes, they're just like, sign here, sign here. It's no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing and understanding, I think, is the best part. And that's why it's so important to get a good lender, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why we kind of direct folks to people
Yeah.
we trust. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely for
For
sure.
sure.
So with that you're at Movement and you've been in the lending business for so long, what is like your value or your uniqueness? Like what do you love doing with your loans? Because I feel like everyone's got like unique um things that they're good at during the loan process. What's
Yeah.
yours?
So first time home buyers, obviously, I'm very thorough. I
Yeah.
tried first time home sellers. People don't think about that. Like if you are moving, like if you're, moving from one house to another,
Oh,
people don't know like that you can be creative. You know,
Yep.
you could pull money from an investment account or your 401k or something like that, and then end up, putting that money back where you don't
Yeah.
have to make a contingent offer.
Yeah.
So I really try to be creative with that,
Uh-huh.
and, really try and if the client does have to sell to buy and there's a simultaneous close,
Yeah.
you know, having somebody that's on it and,
Yeah.
making sure that things are going to close on time,
Hmm.
because that's the other thing that, some other lenders, they maybe don't care, or,
Yeah.
whatever. You have movers,
Yeah.
you have time off that you have to take for work. And,
Yeah.
so if you're a moving target and, you're trying to close on your other property,
Yeah.
people can't be homeless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's the
yeah, so
biggest thing.
yeah. First time home buyers, first time home sellers, that VA loans, that's super, super important to me. Um, and then USDA loans, I mean, I'm pretty good at those.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
That's fabulous. And it's so funny, first time sellers, like I think I help a lot of them. And I just went through one of those and
mhm.
the agent forgot to tell us that there was the buyer's agent, that there was like 3 or 4 contingent properties on the other side. And they were a first time home seller. So having to explain that because we were a month late, but there's
Oh
4
my
of their
gosh.
houses in a row in New York.
Yes. And that's so stressful
It's
because,
so stressful. Yeah. Yeah.
because you feel for those, because those are people behind
Yes.
these mortgages and behind, behind
Yeah.
these, it's not just like moving paper, like these are people's lives.
It's
And,
yeah.
I think it's sometimes, I really try not to lose sight of that. I always
Yeah.
try to remember this, the people's story behind,
Yeah.
the transaction. But I mean, I
Yeah.
hate that word because it's so much more than a
Yeah.
transaction.
I
So
agree. Yeah, yeah, that was a tough one, and it was just tough, but we got through it. We closed. So,
that's good.
whew, but yeah, it was super hard. So I appreciate that you're good with that because this is a hard process.
It
So
is.
yeah, super hard to explain it all too, especially when you don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
But
People don't know what they don't know. So
yeah,
that's why they have to have us to be like, okay, so this is like we do this all day long.
yep,
And this is how we're going to make it happen for you. You
yep,
have to make sure that, that the client holds up their end, as far as getting all their
yep,
documentation, inspections, all those things that they need.
yeah.
But again, they don't do it every day, so we have to help them.
Yeah, and we know all yeah, and that's the biggest thing is breaking down the terminology and breaking down the process because it's so confusing if you don't do this every day, which people don't
Hmm.
typically,
Nope.
maybe once
Yep.
every 5 years. And
Sure.
every
Things
five,
change.
they change so much. They change so much just in a couple of years,
I know.
so definitely I agree with that. So now I know movement, they have like a pretty unique underwriting process. Can you like kind of go over that, explain that a little
Yeah,
bit?
for sure. So we have a 671 process.
Mhm.
So we have a 6 hour underwriting goal. So just kind of summarize quickly. So where your average lender,
Mhm.
the loan officer has the file, they pass it to the
Yeah.
processor gets it ready,
Mhm.
then they send it to underwriting. Who
Yeah.
knows how long the processor is going to have it?
Yeah.
That's honestly one of the major holdups whenever,
Yep.
I'm trying to, help people. I'm like, okay, well, where are you at in the process? So with us, we loan officer underwriting.
Yeah.
So it cuts out that waiting period.
Yeah.
So it does add, more work on my plate because but I prefer that because I
Yeah.
get a really good deep dive on what the file looks like
Mhm.
and what is needed. And it really makes a much smoother process if I can get most everything in the front and rather than waiting till last minute where, people are frantic. They, all of their documents are all packed up. They can't go and like, search for
Yeah.
everything. So, we really, really try to get everything on the front end. So
Yeah.
once I submit the file to underwriting,
Mhm.
we have a goal of getting those of that conditional approval back within 6 hours.
Okay.
So that's some of the fastest in the whole industry.
Yeah.
So then from there, we're on a strict schedule to get everything in the next 7 business days.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
really fast. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's super fast.
but that's how we don't miss closings. That's
Yeah.
how we, so we are graded on how fast we can get a file through. So, and that's whenever I tell clients, you're going to think I'm really annoying for the first like 2 weeks that,
Yeah.
we're going through all of this because I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions, but you're going to thank me at the end whenever I'm not asking you for 900 things at the end.
Yeah.
Now, every loan's not like that. Things get hard sometimes. We find rabbit holes that I just had one recently where I'm like, if I find one more rabbit hole, there better be a rabbit in there. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. But, so yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So,
so
yeah.
so then from there we do have so our closers have 1 day. So after we get done with the loan closing, it's so we try to get everything balanced within 24 hours.
Okay.
And then my personal goal is for a client to have their final numbers at least 48 hours before closing.
Oh,
That
okay.
way, they can get their checks or they can send the wire, whatever they
Mhm.
need to do in order to get the funds to the attorney. If there are missing invoices that we need to add to that CD, we're not scrambling last minute.
Yeah.
It's just a much better experience for the client.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely agree with you. If the more organized it is and the easier the process, I mean, it just makes the whole
Yeah.
buying experience so much better. So I know we've been talking about the process, but just to, I'm just to throw it out there, what is underwriting? Can you explain that to folks? Because
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are like, okay, so I go through this process, but what is that? What are you doing with my
sure.
information?
So we do review things. So, well, my team, I can't speak for every
Yeah,
loan officer because you know how
yeah.
it goes.
Everyone's
But yeah, so my team, so before I even send out a pre-approval, I'm at least going to check everybody's income. So
Mhm.
whether you're self-employed, that means tax returns. If if you're a W-2 employee, so if you're
Yeah,
hourly and you have variable hours, I'm going to go above and beyond to make sure that you do actually qualify. Sometimes that means that you may not get your approval within 24 hours if I can't get the information that I need.
yeah,
However, we're going to make sure that you actually get to the closing table.
yeah,
So with that, so we have so with my team at least, so we're
yeah.
going to be asking those questions up front. We send you to underwriting. They
Uh-huh.
do a much further deep dive on
Okay.
those documents.
Mhm.
So where I'm going to look at your bank statements and I'm going to say, oh, there's a reoccurring payments for whatever it might be,
Yeah.
is that an additional debt that's not on your credit report?
Mhm.
Is that, you know, one time we had somebody paid someone else's mortgage. So
Mm.
we're like, wait a minute, do you have another mortgage?
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. If you have variable income, which means like if you're a hourly employee and you don't get your full-time hours, whatever your employer, had, so some people are, 34, 36,
Yeah.
40 hours. So if that's not consistent, we have to, dig deeper and figure out like, um, were you ill? Was there a pregnancy?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's really what the underwriter does.
Okay.
They take they look at everything, and they just go through it with a fine tooth comb to make sure that, if there's any letters of explanation that are needed, if
Yeah.
there's, um, deposits that are not payroll on your bank statements, like, we
Yeah.
have to ask about that. Just things of that nature. So.
To make your, I guess it's probably just to make sure that they're fully qualified before
Yeah, for
they
sure.
get
So
called.
yeah, so we have to take the client's file and make sure that it fits in the guideline box.
Yeah.
So I think especially for the harder loans, people get um they're like, why do they need all this information? And also, just because you send me something that looks like a bank statement doesn't mean that I can use it.
Yeah.
If there's no identifying information on it, if it's cut off, if
Yeah.
it's, if it's not a complete document,
Yeah.
we can't use that. So I think,
Yeah.
we really try to explain to our clients, hey, I understand that you sent this. We can't use it because of this, and we have to have this in order, to make sure that this works for the specific program that you're trying to use.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense. It makes
yeah,
sense. It's so much more helpful to have like a full to know that they're fully pre-approved and like exactly what they can afford and what the closing looks like, cost and everything. Because for on my end, it's so much, I feel so much more confident about putting in offers. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that so much. So that's why I was like, let's explain that, because people don't sometimes understand what this
for
means.
sure.
They just they're just frustrated because they're like, why are they asking me for 25 million documents? And it's like, that's why. It's because we want to make sure you
Right.
can fully qualify. So we
For
don't lose
sure.
any due diligence, because in North Carolina, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And I
Yeah,
had one recently that I tried to save, big bank.
yeah,
It the teacher lost $1,500. And I'm like, you know,
yeah. It's
and
frustrating.
it was because they did not do their due diligence up front. Had
Yeah,
they actually looked at the file, they would have been like, oh, like she has, XYZ left to go.
yeah,
I try not to tell people no. I try to give them like, hey, if you do this and this, this is how you get there.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Because there's always a way to get there.
Oh yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So we can move on to, I know you do a lot of VA loans. Why is that a great option for,
It is the best loan
okay.
out there.
Yeah,
Um,
I figures.
so no mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Hmm.
Usually, rates are better.
Hmm.
Um, but it back when things were so crazy during COVID, when there's 20 plus offers on houses,
Yeah.
people were a little bit hesitant about accepting VA offers because VA, they do everything that they can do to protect the veteran,
Yeah.
as they should.
Yes.
Like they
Yeah.
sacrificed their lives for us.
Yeah.
And you're saying that like don't want to be like you don't want things to be a little bit more to protect them. Oh, okay. So yes, so that's but so VA loans, another great thing about VA loans. So there's this thing called Tidewater. So
Uh-huh.
whenever you order the appraisal, the
Hmm.
VA appraiser can come back and say, I'm not really sure where, you guys got this value. Can you please
Yeah.
provide the comps
Yeah.
that or the comparable sales? We'll
Hmm.
use the full term here in
Yeah.
case people are watching.
Yeah.
The comparable sales. So, we can try to put together these numbers to make it work. And that is the only loan program that allows that, which I think is great because, if you provide the information to the appraiser, you know, they're going to work hard to try to make sure that, that the value works
Yeah. Yeah.
for that client.
Yeah, or the true value if they're when they're in that process.
For sure.
I mean, you should feel confident with it for sure, definitely. And what other compared to other loans, what are the other great benefits of VA loans? Is there anything else that kind of jumps out?
So no, in some cases you don't have to put down a down payment.
Yeah.
It just depends on somebody's, background, whether or not they've had a VA loan before. Life is hard. Sometimes, people
Yeah.
have foreclosures or
Mhm.
bankruptcy. So if you had a property that was maybe tied up in one of those things, you could lose a portion of your eligibility. So you may have to put down, a specific amount, just depending on what that looks like
Mhm.
for the veteran. But in most cases, you don't have to put any money down, so
Yes.
that's great. Closing costs are usually are reduced. Um, but yeah, so I mean, those are the main benefits
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I know with you guys, your loan origination fee is different, right? For VA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we do offer I think it's like $500 discount off of
Yeah.
application fee for veterans, which is great. So
Yeah, that's super helpful because I've done a lot of VA loans with Movement over the
yeah,
years, and I know that they're just amazing for veterans. What are the key eligibility requirements for a veteran?
yeah,
Just kind of go over that because I know a lot of people are like, "Well, I was a veteran, but do I qualify?"
sure.
So I'm just curious about that.
So your loan officer should be pulling what's called a certificate of eligibility
Yeah.
from the very beginning. I don't send a
Yes.
pre-approval letter
Hmm.
without seeing the certificate of eligibility. That's
Hmm.
so I can always reach out to my team and they can pull that for me
Yeah.
because that's going to tell us how much eligibility is available if
Yeah.
there's any disability
Hmm.
where that's going to also be on there, and that's going to tell us whether or not the veteran has to pay a funding fee, because
Uh,
anytime that a veteran receives any sort of disability from the VA, they do not have to pay the funding fee, which is
oh,
great.
okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Mhm.
I learned something new today. Well, that's pretty cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. And so is there any like credit score requirements?
So the lowest that we go is 580.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so probably closer to a 600, because whenever you get much lower than that, it's the underwriter's gonna, so for instance, I had a client once, he had a bankruptcy,
Mhm.
and he was not making the right moves to recover from that bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So, it just have to make sure that, that moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And so with those, is there like a different like debt to income ratio for a VA loan
There's
or
actually not a maximum debt to income ratio for VA.
okay, okay.
Yeah, which is
Excellent.
kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the highest I've ever heard was like 67%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I'd always heard
So,
that, so I just wanted to ask because
yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah, because I want to make sure I was right, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So and what do you feel like are the biggest misconceptions about VA loans?
That the VA, that they're gonna, that it's usually with the appraisal.
Yeah.
So it's health and safety, right? Like if it's that is, one of the main things with the VA appraisal is
Yeah.
to protect the veteran health and safety. So if you have chipping paint, exposed wire, I mean, it's going to be very, very similar to, most any other loan.
Yeah.
Um, it is, I have seen it. So I had this instance one time so there was not a handrail on a large staircase.
Mm.
And we were actually, instead of making the seller put up a staircase, we were actually able to get a letter from the buyer and say that that was not necessary. Like
Mm.
that they didn't, but that they did. I don't remember. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't remember the exact term, but that's
Yeah.
also, that's like you can push back and say, hey, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought that was super interesting.
That's cool though. Yeah, yeah. I think that is the biggest misconception is that VA loans are not as valuable, like because I have to go over that with sellers. I'm like, no, no, these are solid loans. We need
For
to,
sure.
we need to definitely, these are really solid loans. But they're always worried about, well, if I take a VA loan, what am I gonna have to fix? It's gonna be a lot. And I'm like, no, not
You're
always.
gonna fix, I mean, just depending on what it is, you're gonna have to probably fix it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I definitely always tell people, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
well, I mean, I'll look around, you may have
Yeah.
to fix it anyways, because, I mean, it could be any loan and that could pop up. And then they always think that they don't close as much. And I'm like, no, I mean, I work with a lot of VA
Yeah.
loans and I mean, all my loans close.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think those are the biggest misconceptions I know about, but it
Mhm.
was interesting what you were saying as well. But I think that's a great option. And I know Movement has such a good program for VA.
Yes. We
Yeah.
love our veterans.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So do I. I love working with them. They're
Me
like one of my
too.
favorite loan types, definitely for sure. Well, I think the last couple questions I have for you is what's your best piece of advice for someone who's thinking about buying a home and what they should look at for at least where should they start?
So they need to call you as their agent.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, really, making, so reaching out to a lender, for instance, I have a girl who is looking in the next 6 months. Like,
Yeah.
in, I think so many times people say that, and then they don't realize that they actually do qualify,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that they are, but so, trying to make sure that your bank account, that you're not having a lot of, like random deposits and whatnot, trying
Yeah.
to keep things as streamlined as possible.
Mhm.
Trying to talking with a lender
Yeah.
to, try to figure out what your options are as far as your down payment. we can get pretty creative with that stuff, whether it's
Yeah.
a gift, money from a 401k,
Yeah.
whatever that might look like for the
Yeah.
specific client. But yeah, just making sure that you fully understand and that you have that open communication with that lender, that you can reach them, after hours or on the weekend whenever you are making those offers. Because people, that's when they look at houses is,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys work all the time.
Yeah.
So, just making sure that you have access to that information that you need and,
Mhm.
to make the best decision for you and your family.
Yeah. And probably not making big purchases like cars
Oh, yeah.
and
And
boats.
especially not after you go under contract, please,
Yeah.
because we will find it.
Yeah. That's a surefire. You're definitely not going to be buying a house.
Um,
It's always my, don't buy anything big. Please don't buy a car. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
oh
Because
my
that'll
gosh.
like mess everything up for sure.
Yes.
Definitely.
I had a girl one time. She was so excited. First time home buyer.
Yeah.
I can't wait to park my new car under my new carport. I said, well, you're not now you ain't gonna get a carport
Yeah.
because you were really tight on your debt to income ratio from the start.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, no big, try to just consult if it's something you have a question on, ask your loan officer. Just
Yeah.
um please don't finance furniture.
Yeah.
I don't care what they tell you. It will slow down your loan. You
Yeah.
may still qualify, right? Like, I mean, that's what we see oftentimes is that you still will probably qualify, but it's gonna, we're gonna have to have so
Yeah.
many other documents and, that's when things get stressful at the end,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
things like that pop up and, we thought we were done and it's like, ugh.
Yeah. Or change
So,
jobs. It's another.
yeah. So, we actually have a credit monitoring system that we turn on from the time that you go under contract
Mhm.
until like probably a couple days after you close. So
Yes.
if your credit gets pulled by anybody, we know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. That's
Yeah.
fabulous.
So, I mean, I think most
Yeah.
lenders do that, obviously, but so there's no sneaking by your lender,
Yeah.
we're gonna know.
Yeah.
But yes, and if you do have to make a job change, just like you said, please make sure that you talk with your loan officer about that because that can definitely hurt.
Yeah. Oh, slowed up. The last one I had, it slowed it up. Like we didn't
Yeah.
close for I think a couple of weeks longer because she had to get a new job, which that
We
happens.
do have so we can make exceptions and get your first pay stub after closing in some instances.
Oh
That's
wow.
not on every file.
Yeah.
So we can use your offer letter and then post closing, we can have you send the
Mhm.
pay stub, but that isn't that the file has, like excellent credit history,
Yeah.
like everything has to line up with that because
Yeah.
because that's a risk that, we have to take. Like, what if you don't end up working, the full 40 hours or,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like. So we have to make sure that everything lines up.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with you. And you can also ask your agent because we'll tell you all these
Yeah,
questions. Definitely. Some of
for
them
sure.
that we know. If
Yeah.
we don't know, we're gonna ask you. We'll call up our lender or text. So if people were wanting to get a hold of you, what is the best way to communicate with you? What do you prefer?
So texts are always really easy,
Yeah.
because even if I'm on, even if I'm in a meeting, most of the time, I can, shoot a quick
Yeah.
response back. Phone
Mhm.
calls are fine too. I may a little bit just depending on what my schedule looks like, maybe a little bit, could be just a little bit more time before I can answer.
Yes. Yeah.
But I definitely try to make sure that I do have that actual like, phone conversations with people
Yeah.
because I think sometimes texts can and emails can kind of get lost in translation and it's
Yeah.
also not as like personal,
Yeah.
like hearing somebody's voice and like hearing their questions or concerns or whatever and
Yeah.
trying to anticipate those needs and I mean it's just plus it's like really fun to get to know people,
I
it's
agree.
it's not just like a you know
Yep.
thanks for your mortgage, we'll see ya. It's
Yeah. No,
I
it's a
mean
relationship. Yeah,
yes,
for
like I
sure.
mean I want to know about your kids, your dogs,
Yep.
your pet pig. that
Yeah,
was that was really cool once. This guy had a pet pig. It was so cool.
that's fun.
Hmm.
I love
His
all
name
those.
was Winston.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Mhm.
a fun name too.
Yes,
How big
and
was he?
hmm?
Was he big?
uh, I'm sure he's really big now, but also learned that you can't just buy any house and have a pig.
Oh,
Like, so,
yeah.
there are certain animals that you have to like look at like the like deed restrictions or,
Yeah. No, there are. Yeah.
yeah. And then also with like bodies of water, like like if you have like a creek running through the back of the property, like sometimes you have to get like the health department, or I'm not
Mhm.
really sure which organization, to come out, just to make
Yeah.
sure that's not going to like contaminate like groundwater,
Yeah.
which I never thought about, but
Yeah. Yeah. They're like chickens because there's like so many rules around chickens. And
hmm.
for some reason, I know all the rules around chickens. Um,
Oh, that's good.
I sold like a lot of houses with people that want chickens as pets. So yeah, I guess, yeah, I didn't
I
even think
mean,
about
have you
that. How
seen
can
the
you?
price of eggs? I don't blame them.
Yeah, I know. I get like the last one I sold, I was so jealous. I was like, you have how many chickens? Then they got like they just gave them to them all for free, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I was pretty jealous of that one. But
For
yeah, I
sure.
didn't think about with pigs. That's interesting. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah.
Um, but that is true. I know there is deed restrictions because I read those for fun.
Mm.
Because I'm boring like that. I
Tell me
don't-
you're a real estate nerd without telling me you're a real estate nerd when you read deed restrictions for fun.
I know that's me. Because they're so fun, especially the old ones. You read them and you're
Yeah.
like
You
that's
never know what you're going to find.
no, they're hilarious. They're hilarious, definitely for sure. Well, Brittni, we are so so grateful for you to come on, and I appreciate you taking time out of your
Thank
day.
you.
And
Yes.
yeah, and so we'll have all your information below in the comments, and
Awesome.
you can reach out to me as well if you want Brittni's information. I will get you all of her information, so you can reach out to her, and she will help you and do a fabulous job. But again, thank you so much for taking
Yeah, of
time
course. Thank
out.
you.
Yeah, we've been trying to plan this for a little while,
I
so
know.
very excited that
Busy
we got
schedules.
here. Yeah,
Yes, me
yeah.
too.
And then you'll have to come on and talk about a different topic next time. So
Yes,
for sure,
that'd
definitely.
be great.
But yeah, well, thank you again, and
Thank you.
I hope to
Talk
see
to
you
you soon.
soon.
Yes, ma'am. I'll talk to you soon.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.